Hello and welcome to Lofty Pursuits and Public Displays of Confection in Tallahassee, Florida. I'm Greg, and today Jake is going to make some white roses as part of our rose assortment. We make a special rose assortment every year at this time for Valentine's Day, and they're shipping now. Each color of rose in our special rose assortment is a different flavor. This one being white is vanilla. Jake cooked the sugar to 310 degrees Fahrenheit, and he's now pouring it on the candy cooling table to bring the temperature down quickly. Our goal here is to get the temperature down somewhere in the 200s so that it becomes more like clay and is manipulatable. He needs to do this to sculpt the crystal rose in the center of the candy. Normally we make our white in our candies by pulling the sugar without any food coloring. This candy needs to be treated a little different because we're trying to get a really sharp and crisp edge on the white. To that end, we're adding white food coloring. And white food coloring is a suspension of titanium oxide, and it's suspended in water, and that water we have to get out by stirring it into the hot sugar. The sugar is so far above the boiling point at this time, we're able to boil the water out, and you can see the steam rising off the candy. We also need green. We're going to use them for the leaves of the rose. It's going to make it a little bit more realistic in the crystal background. We have a video talking about the history of this candy cooling table, but it's a water-cooled table, and it's meant for dropping the temperature of the sugar very rapidly. Where the molten sugar is touching the bars, or the bottom of the table, the candy becomes more solid, and we're able to cut it apart into its component colors. In this case, we're going to use a clear for a background, we're going to use the green for the leaves and the whites for the petal of the roses. We're going to space the white petals with clear bits. We find this works better because we can't easily get two shades of white. If you've seen any of our other rose videos, you'll see we make two colors to blend for the petals. With the white roses, we count on the thickness of the candy to reflect the white light from the petals to make the highlights of the petals look white and not as clear. But if you hold the piece up to the light will come directly through the petals themselves. It's kinda cool. I've actually had some of you asking recently why I haven't been in more videos, and I guess the answer is COVID. I'm behind the camera at the moment. Usually our cameraman's name is Colton, a student at a local university, and he has been doing remote learning from another city, his hometown. So let's give a shout out to Colton. We miss you. I'd rather you be behind these cameras than me. In the old days, I used to operate the cameras and be in the video, and I'm still doing that occasionally. I forgot how difficult that is compared to having somebody who's good behind the camera helping you. If we just added white food coloring, the candy wouldn't really be white. It would be sort of a yellowish white, like a piece of old parchment, or the color of raw silk. So we're going to take the candy to the candy hook, and if we pull the candy on the hook, we'll trap millions of air bubbles in the candy. And Jake does this by folding the candy over again and again. The longer he stretches it, the more air bubbles he pulls in each pull, and that makes it faster for him to work. Speed is important because the days are cool at this time of year, and the candy is cooling faster. Sometimes it's useful to have very long arms. If you want to try this rose assortment for yourself, it'll be online at www.pd.net until it sells out. We're shipping it right now, and it's great for both Valentine's Day and Easter. The rose is in two parts. The inside of the rose is a spiral, and the outside of the rose are more petals. It's trapping both the unopened part of the bud and the petals themselves in hot sugar. A candy like this is like trapping artwork in time. Tasty, tasty time. This technique is a variant in sugar on the glasswork technique called milleflorous. To separate the spiral and to make it visible, we make a clear layer in between. Jake rolls this into a cylinder so that it somewhat resembles a cinnamon roll. He then takes it over to our batch roller, which is a spinning heating system. The batch roller will keep the candy warm while he's working on the petals, and it'll spin it to make sure it doesn't go flat under its own weight. It still behaves like molten glass, which means it behaves a lot like a liquid now, and something like a clay. It's a non-Newtonian fluid, and because of that, the rolling pressure of the batch roller keeps the artwork stable, and the heater above it keeps it from cooling off too fast. When we developed the Crystal Flower series, we were working with techniques that we learned from candy makers in Japan. And the clear background's a little unusual because it's difficult to maintain, but Jake has mastered it at this point. He forms the leaves of the rose, and he inserts them into the clear candy. Now he puts this aside so that it can all hit an even temperature so it will stretch evenly while he goes to work on the petals. We've built our heating table so that one part is hotter than the other. The leaves are cooling down a bit because we want the outer wrap to be cooler. And the petals are going onto a hot spot to keep the thinner candy warmer. And this is actually the reason this is a very hard technique to teach, because so much of it is done by touch or just done by experience. You can't see when the temperature changes, but you sometimes can feel it in the way the texture and the plasticity of the candy shifts. Jake has retrieved the spiral from the batch roller, and he starts applying the petals. The petals are slightly irregularly shaped, and this is intentional. It means that every piece of candy will get its own unique rose. Once Jake has built his rose form, he will wrap it with the clear wrap that'll make it a crystal rose, and the petals will wrap with the outer wrap around the candy to be perfect for this rose. Jake has now made a rose that's almost 8 inches in diameter, and he needs to get it down to a 1/2 inch in diameter, and we do this on our batch roller. The batch roller keeps the candy spinning so it won't go flat, even though it's currently, like I said, behaving like a non-Newtonian fluid. And it helps him taper it, and he can break it from the log into individual rods. Once the size of the candy has been reduced so much, and it's no longer under a heater, it cools rapidly and it hardens rapidly. It only takes an occasional roll every now and again to keep it round until it becomes time to cut it into bite-sized pieces. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to us here on YouTube at the Lofty Pursuits channel and ring the notification bell. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And we also have a weekly podcast under the name Lofty Pursuits as well. You can find the podcast and our candy at www.pd.net. And if you want to, you can order this and try this for yourself or give it to somebody else for Valentine's Day. And now all that's left to do is to cut the candy into bite-sized pieces. Now that the rose is complete, all that's left to do is for Jake to blend it all together. Thank you for watching. We do appreciate it. If you're ever in Tallahassee, please visit us. We're located right off I-10 on the Thomasville Road exit, and you can come and see us make candy for yourself. We don't make candy all the time, but we make it a lot, and if you're lucky, you'll be able to catch us. And of course, try our candy for yourself at www.pd.net. We'll see you in the next video.